What is the relationship of knowledge to self-knowledge for Jesus? This comes right out of your presentation tonight. In Mark 13:32, regarding the second coming, Jesus admits that he does not know the time of his return. This passage in Mark seems to ascribe limited knowledge to Jesus.
Right.
Does Jesus teach us how to live with limited knowledge of our own self-knowledge and destiny?
Well, I think he shares that condition with us. I think one of the failings of contemporary Christianity is to really affirm and appreciate the humanity of Jesus. I think very many of us have the idea that Jesus is basically kind of like Superman dressed up as Clark Kent. But he's not really a human being. He really hasn't taken on our full humanity. And that's not what the church fathers thought, or what the New Testament affirms. It affirms that Jesus had a fully human experience, and that would mean limited knowledge that grew as he grew older. We shouldn't think of the baby Jesus lying in the manger contemplating the infinitesimal calculus or Newton's physics. Rather, he had a typical infant consciousness like a normal baby. And the New Testament says that as he grew in wisdom and in stature. And it says that he learned moral perfection through what he suffered. And in his lifetime, Jesus asks questions. He exhibits limited knowledge, for example, of the date of his second coming. And I feel quite confident that if you had asked Jesus a question about quantum mechanics or auto mechanics, he wouldn't have known the answer to that question, at least in his conscious waking life. So I think that we want to affirm that Jesus knew all of the limitations, cognitive and physical, that go with the human condition. Now, does that mean that Jesus was not omniscient? Well, no. I think what that means is that we ascribe properties to Jesus with respect to his divine or human nature. With respect to his divine nature, he was omniscient and omnipotent. With respect to his human nature, he was limited in knowledge and limited in power. Now, how can you put this together in the same package? Well, what I've suggested in my own work on the incarnation in the book Philosophical Foundations for a Christian Worldview, that it may be helpful to distinguish between levels of consciousness within the person of Jesus. Modern psychoanalysis has shown that there is vastly more to a human personality than just the waking veneer of consciousness. There is a deep subliminal containing springs of behavior that we may not even be aware of. And it seems to me that we can say that in the incarnate state, that these divine elements were largely confined to Jesus' subliminal, and that his waking consciousness would have been consistent with the experience of an ordinary human being. Though clearly he did have some understanding, as I said, of being God's Son, being the Son of Man, having this commission by God, knowing why he had come, and so forth. So there was elements of this divine self-understanding in Jesus' consciousness. But I think we should say that knowledge of things like the date of his return, auto mechanics, quantum mechanics, and things of that sort would be part of the divine subliminal rather than part of his human waking consciousness. And that gets you a genuine incarnation rather than this Superman merely clothed in a Clark Kent